a full quorum. Moving on to the invocation and Pledge of Allegiance and Texas Pledge by Mr. Frank Davalos.
Dear God, we thank you for your guidance for making us all here tonight. As we discuss and make decisions for all campuses in the Laguna Madre area, give us rest from any worry and peace to trust the outcomes from what we voted on at this meeting. Guide us safely home and let us awaken to your love in the morning. In the name of Jesus we pray, amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you, Mr. Davalos. We are moving on to presentations. First presentation is a 2024-2025 Financial Integrity Rating System of Texas, or FIRST. And second presentation is 2024, 2020, and 2025 State and Federal Accountability Data Presentation. Mrs. Capistrán.
Thank you, Ms. Scott, members of the board, and to our audience. The first presentation is the first school rating. TEA grants a letter grade and a number grade to every school district based on their financial ratings, financial integrity that has numerous components. This evening, I'm going to ask Ms. Not yet. So Ms. Gonzalez, we have two presentations with first rating. So it is my honor to present this first rating system for Point Isabel ISD. And this is under the direction of Ms. Christy Gonzalez. And I'm going to ask Christy and Melissa, and I don't know, there's Pedro. I don't know if Veronica is here. Please come up to the front. Today, we're also going to be presenting the first rating presentation, and there's a lot of information, but we wanted to begin with the actual celebration, and that is that Point Isabel ISD received an A. And it's actually, it's not just an A, because an A can be a 90, an A as 100. A perfect score that is presented to our district under the direction of Ms. Christy Gonzalez, our CFO, but she has a team. And I do want to publicly appreciate, thank them for all that they do. And they're the ones that keep us in line and have those checks and balances in place for all of us. And we're all held accountable to ensure that we comply. And there's a reason evident by, and they're the ones that are letting us know these things can and these things cannot be approved. And every single leave, requisition, purchase, everything is scrutinized by auditors, external auditors that come in. And that's one component of what TEA looks in addition to, and she's going to give a presentation. But thank you on behalf of our school district. Thank you for keeping us above water. Thank you for keeping us balanced. Thank you for telling us no when we can't buy some things and there's a reason. And the 100th, the perfect score, is indicative of the fact that we are being led on the right path. Tonight, again, I'm trying not to get ahead of myself because Christy's going to be presenting all of that. But thank you. And I don't know if any of the board members have anything to say. I'll be saying a few more words during the actual presentation because tonight you're going to see how it is that we were able to earn this perfect score. And I believe tonight's presentation is going to show everyone's not receiving a 100. Everyone is not receiving an A in Region 1. So this work is tremendous, and I cannot thank you enough for doing this for our school district and keeping us safe and in a great financial position. Thank you.
I just, in addition to what Mrs. Capisan has said already, thank y'all for all of your hard work. And while many districts across the state, I'd say more than many, a lot of districts across the state were struggling to have balanced budgets and trying to figure out how to fund things in their school district. And we, y'all have managed to help guide us and lead us in the right direction year after year to have a balanced budget, a healthy fund balance, and keeping us in line. And we appreciate it. And thank y'all for your hard work.
Just a few words, ditto from what Heather said, but also how many years in a row have we had a first rating of an A? Every year that you've been here, that is amazing. And just to keep up this whole system and to have everybody being held accountable, everybody, including us, right? That is really wonderful hard work on your part. So we thank everybody.
Thank you, Ms. Castillo. I do want to piggyback on that comment. If you recall, I believe it was about a year and a half ago when we had TASB come in, and they told us about 75 to 80% of the school districts in the state of Texas did not have a balanced budget, and we were one of the minority. We know that many of the districts struggled after COVID because our districts received a lot of money during COVID times, and there was what we call the ESSER cliff. And so a lot of the school districts got used to the extra money, and it was difficult, and that's where they had the challenges of having a balanced budget. And through a lot of direction and guidance from the business office, and specifically Ms. Gonzalez, telling us when we could and telling us when we couldn't in preparation. It's business office is like a seed, and they plant it in hopes for what's going to happen in a couple of years. And that's what we were doing during COVID time. We were looking and seeing what we could afford, but knowing that these funds were going to go away in a couple of years after COVID, and that we would be in a good financial place. So things don't happen by accident, and we're so appreciative for all the support that we have and where we're at today.
Oh, yes. Okay. Why do they stay with me? I would like to thank Ms. Capisan and our school board for their support always, 100%, always supporting the business office and every other department as well. But it really means a lot that they listen to us and make sure that trust us and always have an open mind about everything. And we're trying our best to save as much as we can and trying to get the best value for everything. So I know everything's about money for us. So, and of course, it's not only us, it's all the secretaries, all your department, all your admin, all your principals. Everyone shares this because without you also following all of the procedures, we wouldn't have this either. So just make sure we keep moving forward, keep doing everything possible to stay in compliance, and please, please, please help us with everything we need to do for the laws. But we also are here to support you as well. So anything you need to let us know, and we will help you out as well. So thank you so much for everything. Oh,
Definitely what Miss Christie said. I did not have anything prepared for today. This is a surprise. But definitely, I know the secretaries are not here. I cannot stress enough how much work is put into this that is done by the ladies at the campuses. It is incredible. So if I could have the principals and the department heads go back to your departments and your campuses and thank them on my behalf, it would be amazing. Thank you so, so much for everything that you guys do every single day and for helping us.
Yes. Ditto to everyone. Thank you. No, I just want to say thank you for helping us out, and I'm learning, so I have a good teacher and a good second teacher that keeps me online. But yeah, thank you everyone, and hopefully for the next years that we're here, we keep getting A's. Thank you.
Again, thank you all so much. Lots of work all year long. So the next presentation that we have is the 2024-2025 State and Federal Accountability Data Presentation. I am going to ask Ms. Noemi Guzman, Ms. Mimi, and Ms. Kirsty Ramirez to begin their presentation. I do want to remind the board and the audience that we had not had a rating for 2 years. We had not, the state ratings had not been released, nor as a result, then federal had not. So today we are going to see the byproducts as a result of that. And the ladies have state and federal information that they're going to be presenting. Do we have it? Okay, so ladies, you may begin.
Thank you, Ms. Capistran, Madam President, members of the board, members of our family. I was going to say, yeah, of our family, our audience, our community. We are going to share, like Ms. Capistran said, some data today. As you all may or may not remember, the state was under litigation for the past 2 years, so we had not received any accountability ratings for the past 2 years, and within the span of about 3 to 4 weeks, they opened the floodgates and they gave us all the data. So today we're going to go over a quick overview of our A through F accountability system. We're going to look at some state data and then, of course, PI data. Our A through F accountability system is comprised of 3 domains. Domain 1, student achievement. Domain 2, school progress. And domain 3, closing the gaps. 70% of our overall grade comes from the best of domain 1 and domain 2, and 30% comes from domain 3. We're going to go ahead and review each one. Student achievement focuses on measuring student success, student academic success. 100% of scores for elementary and middle school come from STAR. Did a student pass? Yes, no, and that's how they get points. For high school, they also look at STAR, whether the kids met the approaches level, the meets or the masters, and they also include CCMR and the graduation rate. So again, here we look at the number of kids that met approaches, meaning that they passed the STAR, plus the number of kids that got a meets, plus the number of kids that got masters, and divide by 3, and that's how we get our domain 1 score. So in essence, a student can get us a maximum of 3 points if they perform at the master's grade level. So again, if a student meets approaches, they're counted here. If a student meets or earns meets, they are counted twice. And if a student earns the master's grade level, they are counted 3 times. So that is why our campuses, our teachers, our administrators, that is the conversation that we have been having. We are really pushing for meets and masters. What do we have to do? What interventions, what supports do we have to provide our students to get them to where they need to be? So that is domain 1. This is some state data. They took all of the RLA kiddos, all the kids that took RLA for all grade levels. 76% of the kids in the state met approaches, 54 met meets, and 22 earned masters. For math, the state was at a 72% for approaches, 43% for meets, 17% for masters. For science, 75, 43, 16, and for social studies, 78% of the kids that took the social studies test were at approaches, 51 were at meets, and 27 were at masters. How did PIISD do? We took all of our RLA kiddos, 3rd through high school. We were at 75% of our kiddos met approaches, 46 meets, 15% masters. For math, 69, 34, 11. For science, 78, 39, 11. And for social studies, 77, 51, and 23. If you notice, we are pretty comparable with the state. Of course, there are some areas of improvement. We've already been looking at this data ever since it was released. We've been meeting with principals. Principals have been meeting with teachers. They are creating plans of action to see how we can improve on our scores in the approaches, in the meets, and in the masters. This was our domain 1. Domain 2 tracks student growth from year to year. There are 2 sections in domain 2. The first section is academic growth. Did the student grow from one year to the next year academically, measured by how they performed last year to how they performed this year? And they also look at relative performance. Relative performance, we are compared to campuses with similar economically disadvantaged percentages. So the best of part A or B, that gives us our domain 2 score. For academic growth, we get points, and we want all our kids to pass. But let's pretend we have a kid that didn't pass, right? Let's say that Mimi got a 20% last year, and this year Mimi got a 50%. Mimi still didn't pass. However, last year she was at a low did not meet. This year she was at a high did not meet. Because Mimi showed growth, the state is still giving us credit for that. Now, if Mimi was at a low 20% and Mimi stayed at a low 23%, 3 points is not really much of a difference. I did not earn any points for my district or for my campus. Same thing for meets. For meets, they want the students to keep or improve. Meets to meets or meets to masters. Master's grade level, if they maintain, they keep their point. If they go down, then they don't get any points for academic growth. Annual growth equals no performance droppers. Any students who maintains or improves contributes to growth, except for this area that I spoke about, the low to low. Even though they stayed the same, we don't get any points for that. Senate Bill 1416, Accelerated Learning, formerly known as House Bill 4545, is also giving us what we call icing on the cake. We get extra points if we go from low to any of the passing areas, whether it's low approaches, high approaches, or meets or masters. If I was low last year and I jumped all the way to approaches, I automatically get an extra point. So not only did I get a point in that other chart, but I get another point here. So a kiddo that makes significant growth can give us more points. This is data for the state of Texas, 24 versus 25. For domain 2, 23% of districts in Texas increased ratings from prior year, and 86% of the districts stayed the same. For PIISD, we had, I'm so sorry. For PIISD, domain 2, for our academic growth, we scored a letter grade of D, a skill score of 63. We did improve 6 points, and we are at a 69. We're hoping to get that higher. Obviously, we all want to be at A's, but if we can go up to a C, to a B, any growth we will take. Like I said, our campuses, our teachers are working hard and really looking at their data, really looking at the individual student to see what we need to do to make sure that we are growing our students. Because right now, it shows that we are not growing our students at the rate that we would like to be growing them. Second part of domain 2 was relative performance. In 2024, we scored a B, 83, and we went up by 1 point, a B. So remember what I mentioned a little while ago, for school progress, they take the best of these two, and that is the score they give you for that domain. So for our district, for domain 2, we ended up with a B, an 84. Closing the gaps is the last domain. Closing the gaps focuses on student subgroups. There are certain groups that are taken into account. The all-student group is comprised of race and ethnicity, special education, this includes former and current, continuously enrolled in mobile, emergent bilingual, again former and current, and EcoDis. So this right here is the one that you see over here. And then the second group they look at is the first lowest performing racial ethnic group. The third group they look at is the second lowest performance racial ethnic group. And then the fourth group they look at is a high focus group. And the high focus group is composed of economically disadvantaged students, emergent bilingual, current special education, and high mobile students. By high mobile, they include students that are coded as homeless, migrant, or in foster care. So again, domain 3 examines the performance of groups of students to ensure gaps are closing. Domain 3 is also used to comply to meet federal requirements, and Ms. Kirsty will talk a little bit more about that as soon as I share data with y'all. These are the ratings for domain 3 across the state. 33% of districts increased in the rating for this domain, with 83% of the districts staying the same. For Point Isabel ISD, last year, for domain 3, we had a scale score of 74, which meant a C letter grade, and this year we improved to an 82, which now gave us a B. So that means that we are closing gaps for the majority of our students, but again, going back, there's a lot of subgroups that they look at, and even though we are doing excellent overall as a whole picture for domain 3, we want to make sure, and these are conversations again that we've had with our principals, we want to make sure that we are really looking at the individual student, an EB student, a SPED student, a migrant student, everything like that. So I'm going to go ahead and pass the mic over to Ms. Kirsty, and she will explain more about federal requirements for domain 3. So it is not in 100, and if you look at the little thing on the bottom, it says it's 1,208 districts in 2025. It might not equal to 100% due to the rounding. Yeah.
And I had a question.
I see. Lesson of tonight, let's read the fighting print, people. I'm kidding.
And I had a question as well.
Yes.
I had a question as well. So you're looking at all of those groups, the same student can be counted 4 times?
That is correct.
For all? Okay.
That is correct. The same student.
So if they didn't do well, they
We are
they'll-
dinged several
Right,
times.
okay.
And if they did excellent, we are rewarded several times.
Okay.
Okay, so now I'm going to talk to you and as Miss about federal accountability. Remember, Ms. Guzman stated that we have not seen federal accountability in a couple of years. It was on hold, our federal rating. So just remember that. So with federal accountability, target support identification. This is when we look at our student groups, our own student groups. Remember, she talked about our migrant, our special education, our emergent bilingual. So those are our student groups. Our student groups are ones that when they hit our same three indicators for this, the same three indicators for 3 consecutive years. So if they're going to hit the same 3 indicators for 3 consecutive years, that is what we call the 3x3. And so when that happens, let me see if I find when that happens, then they're considered consistently underperforming. So we consider that the 3x3. The same student group hitting the same 3 indicators for 3 consecutive years. So when you look at this chart, look at the red areas. Remember, 3 consecutive years, and that's a typo right there, so ignore the 6. Think of it as a 5. And then here, 3 consecutive years, 3 consecutive years. Now think about the 3 indicators: academic achievement, RLA, growth, RLA, growth mathematics, and then your subgroup. So that's your 3x3. 1, 2, 3.
So before we continue, I do want to, again, remind all of us that we had not received this data for the past 2 years.
Correct.
And one thing that Ms. Kirsty's going to mention, and it's worth mentioning over and over again, is that federal changes their target. So we don't know what the target is, and we did not know what the target was.
Right. So an additional factor for additional targeted support, now the targeted support is the 3x3, which is the 3 consecutive years, the subgroup, and the 3 indicators. But one additional targeted for additional targeted support is if they're in the lowest, they have a point system, the 5%. So if they fall below the 5%, that's an additional factor for the additional targeted support. That 5% is continuously changing every year. We do not know, not a single district knows what that 5% is going to be this year or next year. No one knows. It is continuously changing. So just keep that in mind.
I have a question.
Yes,
Because
ma'am.
you're comparing 23, 24, and 25. Are you following them from 3rd grade to 4th grade to 5th grade? Or is it a different group of students?
It's going to be your subgroup. So whatever subgroup they fall in. So let's say it's emergent bilingual. So it's anybody who falls in the emergent bilingual or economically disadvantaged.
The group that's students from one year to the next.
Okay.
Correct.
So it's not comparing apples to oranges. You're actually comparing the apples
Correct.
each year. Okay.
Mhm.
Because that's different than it used to be.
With a moving target.
Well, it's always, yeah, because they don't understand that we need a
With a
firm
moving-
target.
With the moving target. With a moving target, with data that had not been released in 2 years.
That's crazy. Okay, thank you.
So just for clarification, Kirsty,
ma'am.
again, if we have a low-performing student in each one of the areas of reading, language arts, and math, we're going to be hit 3 times.
Correct. And
So
then
if a student is a Hispanic, economically disadvantaged,
And
bilingual, special education student, he is going to impact 4 of those areas.
right, and those 4 subgroups.
A continuous 5 actually.
Right.
Because there's one for a continuous and then there's one for mobile.
Right.
So it's both.
And you'll notice with the 5% point system in 2024, it could have been 56, but yet in 2025, it went up to 61. So we don't know what the point system is ever going to be. It just continuously changing. So it's a guessing game at this point. So a week and a half ago, literally, we were told and we received an email that Garriga Elementary, the federal accountability ratings were out, and Garriga Elementary did not meet federal accountability. So if you can find the red areas for this report, we received this report, and you can find the red areas. And so remember the 3x3. So it's your subgroup, it's the consecutive years, and it's the 3 indicators. Because as soon as we break a cycle, if you see a white area, we broke the cycle. It has to be 3 consecutive years in one subgroup. So the area that we're concerned about, and so those are the
Is special education.
special education current.
The report states confidential, but we attended, Ms. Guzman, Ms. Bermudez, and Ms. LeBlanc and I attended a meeting in Region 1, and we have to present this information.
Correct.
So that we are required to do that by a given date, but we felt we're already addressing it. We're meeting with Region 1, and we're going to address this. And I don't want to get ahead of myself. Continue.
Correct. So I do want to give the next screen, remember the 5% point system? If you'll look, the 5% cut, 5% point system was a 61, and the score for Garriga was a 59. We only missed it by 2 points. We didn't know what the score was. 2 points. But this year, we will not know what the point system will be. We won't know what it is for next year because it's continuously changing. So we are already working on a plan. What are the next steps? We're already working on a plan. So we are working on intervention activities. We have already created a team. We're reviewing data. We're assessing our needs. We're developing a strong plan. We've already met with the campus admin team. We're implementing the plan with fidelity, and we're using performance management structures. I've met with Ms. LeBlanc several times already. We've met with Ms. Capizan, with Ms. Guzman. We're reviewing the plan and implementation supports. We've met with Region 1, and we are going to work with Region 1. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so we've reviewed this plan with Garriga, but now all of those kids are they're all at Garriga?
Yes.
Okay, and so how are we going to ensure that we have enough support for the SPED department?
Actually, combining actually helps.
Okay.
Because the numbers in the other sub-hops, so when you look at the data, when you have, and I'm going to make up the number, when you have 50 students that were identified with this plan last year, but now you have another sub-hop, another, and I'm going to make up the number, 60. Now you have a pool of 110, but those in the other campus, that was not an area that was identified last year nor the year before. So now in itself, the number, the pool should actually help because now you have a greater number divided by the denominator is greater than what it was before. So numbers itself, if we add the numbers today, that in itself, if we did nothing different today, that is going to help. What is also going to help, and we're working with Region 1 in identifying the students. The campus is actually doing that, and they started doing that even before the school year without even knowing this.
Right.
We were behind the 8 ball, no different than many other school districts. We're in a much better place, and again, I'm getting ahead of myself because Garriga grew. Garriga grew overall so much, but yet that one sub-hop, so you can have accountability and growth and accountability, but then you saw, and that's why we're going over all of this that we're required to do. The sub-hop, and as Ms. Hoffman mentioned, one student based on their the different categories that they're in can impact in many, many different areas. So identifying that area, and not just that one area, because we need to look at not just Garriga, but the other campuses as well. Because if we have 2 years in a row, and the very next day that we came back from Region 1, we came back and met with all the principals, because we have other areas from other campuses that have 2 years in a row. And if we don't do something different, we will be in this place with another campus and another subcategory. So it's about analyzing the data, coming up with plans this year. We are working with Region 1 with a TSL, and we have, that is going to tie in with not just with this category, because we cannot just be focused on this one category and ignore everything else and then I'll say get in trouble with the others. It's what are we doing comprehensive with everybody else. In addition, what is it that we're doing? We have gone with Bluebonnet, and we have a lot of support. The teachers and the staff members have a lot of support, curriculum support, and through Mimi and Reina working with Bluebonnet reading and math. There's a lot of support, a lot of training to provide structures in place with this year's curriculum. So we're addressing, and I want the board and everyone to know, it's not just this one area, because there's a couple of other areas that if we are not addressing are already in year 2, this will be a year 3, but we're not going to let it get to that.
So it seems to me that the state accountability system and the federal accountability system are not aligned. Correct.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely. And the fact that it's very unfair. I want the board to know, and when I got this report, it came out of nowhere. I called Ms. Guzman and Ms. Ramirez, federal, Ms. Ramirez and Ms. Guzman, because this literally came out of nowhere. And it's not fair. It's not fair. It's not fair to the district. It's not fair to the campus, because specifically with Riga, there's been a lot of growth. And again, I'm getting ahead, but we're going to be presenting the campus who got 3 distinctions. And so how do you earn 3 distinctions with the accountability, but then you're on this plan with the federal government? And we all have our personal opinions. I'm all about data. I'm all about accountability, but it has to be fair. And this was basically, we played analogy, we played the game, and then they told us what the rules were after the fact. And this is, and I can tell you, I told the campus principals, this is no fault of theirs. And but the fact is, this is where we're at. And we have an obligation, and we're going to do the work with a lot of support from not just the district, but from Region 1 as well. And we're hiring Region 1 as well to provide additional layer of support for this campus, but the entire district as well. Because other campus, so Ms. Ramirez showed you, it's 3 years in 3 different categories. And the principals can tell you the very next day, I said, we're going to have a meeting at 8:30 the very next day that we came back from Region 1, because we had to, I wanted to share this right off, hot off the press. We just got it, we're going to turn it around, and then we're going to come up with plans. And we're in the middle of coming up with and finalizing plans. But we have hired Region 1 to assist us with the additional support and guidance for Garriga and for all the other campuses as well.
And don't forget, this is unfair to our students because they're measured by a moving target every single year, and they don't even know what the target is.
I just think that it's important to, if that's, yes, there's everywhere, but we have to focus as well and give the support that's needed, especially for those students if they're going to need extra, or if they do need extra support. And so I just would want to advocate for that, for them, whatever we need to do to make sure that the campuses aren't overwhelmed as well. I know
we're all overwhelmed right now.
No, I know 100%, but I know that we just scored an A and find money somehow, some way. She has a magic place, but I just whatever we need to do to make sure that our students are supported. Because,
Absolutely. No, absolutely, Ms. Galvan,
it
but,
doesn't,
but we know that research shows that the best instruction is what happens in tier one. Our tier one instruction
absolutely.
has to be extremely strong, and that is what we're focusing on, providing our teachers in the day and our students in the day. We're gonna start tutorials, but our kids are tired. At the end of the day, we're still going to do, we're going to be working on tutorials, but it's about what happens during the day. And we're providing our teachers with a lot of professional development throughout the day to ensure that all of the support is given. Again, a lot of collaboration, I think, more than ever with Region 1, right, Ms. Guzman, in the basic content areas to ensure that our teachers have everything that they need during the day and after school as well, but ensuring that our tier one instruction is extremely strong.
So we will need a call for a curriculum instruction committee meeting soon and definitely discuss some of those supports and of course, review the data and,
Actually,
the
actually, we've already, I'm sorry, Ms. Castillo, we've already arranged that with Region 1, and they're actually going to be coming in and presenting to you. We've already worked with them, absolutely. We're doing as much as we can. Again, this is one area, one campus, but it could be any others, and
But-
the data shows it.
Now it's one area, one campus, but now that campus is gonna hold, I mean, that's all of our students in our district. So, I mean, it's a big one.
It actually, when you put the numbers together, it actually helps for next year. It's not gonna hurt. Actually doing that will actually help it.
Okay, good.
So our next step is working with Region 1 and creating the local improvement plan. And so we are going to hire Region 1. It will be grant funded. It will not touch our 199. I took care of that. So it will be grant funded. I'll pay with federal funds with that. So this is our timeline to work with Region 1. And so DCSI will be in charge of working and creating the local improvement plan. And so that will be me. And so I will create your local improvement plan and working with the campus admin team and then our team here with at the district level. Our local improvement plan is called the LIP, and so we'll be working with Region 1. This is our timeline. And so, of course, you'll notice that we will do constant progress monitor check-ins. We'll also be presenting back and forth to the board, and so that way you know where we're at and what we're doing with our data. And so this is our timeline. And then, of course, we'll turn in our initial local improvement plan to Region 1 on or before November 14th. And then, of course, we'll turn in our end of the year local improvement plan on or before June 20th. Any questions?
So real quick to recap, thank you, Ms. Kirsty. To recap, again, our accountability system includes 3 domains. Domain 1, student achievement. Did the student pass or fail? Did they meet approaches, meets, or masters? Domain 2, school progress. Did they grow from one year to the next? And how did they perform in relative performance in comparison to other campuses that have the same EcoDIS percentage? Remember, the best of these 2 domains weighs 70% of our overall letter grade, and then the last 30% comes from domain 3, which is closing the gaps. So this is how the state of Texas fared for 2025. From 2024, 31% of campuses increased in ratings, 86% of campuses stayed in the same score. For our district, we had 100% of our campuses stay in the same letter grade. 3 of those campuses were a B campus, which is our 75%, 3 out of 4. 25% of our campuses, in other words, 1 campus, stayed at a C, but we still had growth. If you look at our scale scores from last year to this year, Dairy last year was at an 80, which was a B, but they grew to an 85. Garriga was an 83. This year, they were at an 85. Junior high was at a 78. They went up to a 79. And the high school was at an 82, and we grew to an 86. So even though they stayed within the same letter grade, there was improvement within that letter grade. So we are hoping to keep that momentum going. Overall, the district score, and I'm gonna go through that, is also calculated, it's calculated a little bit differently, but it includes the same 3 domains: student achievement, school progress, and closing the gaps. How did our district fare? Across the state of Texas, we had 24 districts increasing ratings from the prior year, and 88% of the districts stayed the same. We were one of those districts that stayed the same. However, our scale score did improve. Last year we were at an 80, and this year we were at an 83 overall as a district, with an accountability rating of a B. We
all of the school districts in Cameron County, there was no school district in Cameron County that was in.
Correct. Yes. And so, like we mentioned a little while ago, we did have some campuses that also received some distinction designations. How are they awarded this? We are compared to other campuses that are similar in demographic profiles. They take the top 25% of those campuses, and that's how we get a distinction. So if we score in the top 25% of our comparison group, we are giving a distinction. So we did have some campuses receive that award. So I'm gonna go ahead and hand it over to Ms. Capistran so she can award the great work that they're doing.
Thank you, Ms. Guzman. So again, if we're looking at the campus comparison groups, and the way that a campus can earn distinctions is in each of those categories for academic achievement in language arts, academic achievement in mathematics and in science, or the top 25% of comparative academic growth, post-secondary readiness, or top 25% of closing gaps. So a campus, there's so many different formulas. So for the distinction, the state is looking at each of those categories and a campus that rates in the top 25% in each of the categories, and that's for all of the campuses. So we mentioned that Garriga is on the federal side plan, but yet Garriga is receiving 3 distinctions for achievement. I'm going to ask Ms. Valerie LeBlanc to come up. So Garriga Elementary received 3 distinction designations. And again, this is, and think of, right over here, right in the middle. Think of honors and achievement, and that's you have your top 5% of the students, top 10% of the students. So the state recognizes to be in the top of any of these categories. So tonight, Certificate of Achievement, this certificate is proudly presented to Garriga Elementary for attaining 2025 TA Star Distinction designations. 3 distinctions: top 25% in reading language arts, top 25 comparative academic growth, and top 25 comparative in closing the gaps. This is a huge accomplishment. And again, it's like this one wheel doesn't speak to this other wheel because it's like an oxymoron. How can we be here and here? And we'll do the work. That's all there is. I am completely confident we're going to check, but we're also going to celebrate the great work. And this does not come by accident. It's very intentional, very purposeful. And this is for Ms. LeBlanc for all of her work and for all of Garriga Elementary as well. Congratulations. Here or down there? We'll go down and then stay down for the next one. So again, keeping in mind the growth, the top 25%. And for Port Isabel Junior High, last year, top 25% academic achievement distinction for reading language arts and for academic achievement in social studies. So tonight, I'm going to ask Ms. Rocio Ramos and I'm going to ask Ms. Deborah Quest to come up. And this is going to be a joint presentation. Ladies, come up. So I do want to say, I remember when Star was first born, a star was born. Dun, dun.
We got it.
I think we're in a serious mood, right? And they told us all of this accountability system is literally algebra, pre-cal formulas. And there are so many different formulas. But at the end of the day, we do what's right for students. We want our students to succeed. We want them to grow. And we know that some students may never get to the master's categories because we know, but we need to ensure that we are growing them so that the gaps are not widening, that we are closing gaps. And that's one of the categories that we look at. And so we know our students, and these are the conversations that we had with principals. Our teachers need to know who our students are. Our students need to know. And we talked about having those coaching sessions because our students need to know, you know what, you didn't pass, but you were 2 questions away from passing. Or you were 5 questions. You know what, what if we get 2 more right? We also talked about data. Everything's about data. So our kids need to know how many questions are needed to pass the math. And again, I'm making that up. If there are 50 questions in a STAR math test, kids need to pass 30. Let it get to be a number that our kids feel like, you know what, I can pass 30. I can get 30 right. And having those conversations, and we're going to keep on hearing. I mentioned it to Ms. Guzman because I like to hear about the domains and domain 2, part A, part B, and 3, and closing the gaps and knowing those numbers, because every time we hear it and every time we speak it, we internalize it just another little step closer to truly understanding. And that's what we're doing with principals. That's why we came back the very next day from Region 1 and said, okay, hot off the press, you need to know. And this is where we're going. Have we finalized the plan? Absolutely not, because it's going to be a working plan throughout the entire year. We're going to be working with our kids as well. Our kids need to know and have these academic plans that they know, okay, I didn't pass, I never passed, but you know what? You're getting more right every single year. You're growing. And we encourage our kids and we let them know that they are in the right direction. And we give them hope. So today it is about hope. We're doing a great job. When we saw the scores, and you all saw, our district is in the top 25%, very close to the top of the districts in Region 1. No different than we're in the top, and do you have that? Okay, I'm not going to speak. She's going to present that. But it's all about data, but our kids are more than data. Because we want our kids, if you saw, and I think we kind of zoomed through that, we're at 92% CCMR for our graduates. Yesterday I got a call from Educate Texas and saying, what is Point Isabel ISD doing? Because y'all are doing great. Your kids are graduating college, career, or military ready. And guess what? Most of our kids are not graduating military ready. That's a handful of kids, truly, truly. If you all recall, a couple of years, TA changed it because they were getting a lot of kids signing up for the military. And they realized, okay, do you really have that many kids going to military? And they realized, not always. Our kids are truly graduating with an industry-based certification. You know that we're graduating kids with associate's degree that 5 and 6 years ago was not existent. We do what's right for students, and I want to emphasize our kids are more than data, because if we're graduating 92% of our kids that are CCMR ready, that means that we're building a brighter future, not just for our students, but for our community, because we know that education is the greatest equalizer, and that breaks poverty in lives of not just students, but generations. And I'm sorry, I get passionate because I truly believe in the work that is happening here in our district, and that's with all of these leaders. So I'm gonna ask all of our principals, our assistant principals who are here, our deans of instruction, please stand to be recognized, because y'all are doing amazing, amazing work for our kids every single day along with our team. But our campuses cannot do the work without your leadership and your supervision and your guidance. Thank you. Thank you for all that you do.
Thank you so much, Ms. Capistran. This concludes our accountability presentation. Thank you all. Ms. Capistran.
Thank you, Mrs. Capistran, Mrs. Guzman, and Mrs. Ramirez. Moving on to our first public hearing. Public hearing for the discussion of the first financial integrity rating system of Texas. Do I have a motion to, first we're gonna have the presentation, the overview of School First Financial Integrity Rating System of Texas. Ms. Gonzalez?
Thank you, Madam President, board members, Ms. Capistran, members of our audience. Today is our first public hearing for our first, which is, I always say first, but it's called the Financial Integrity Rating System of Texas. So whenever I say first, that's what I mean. It's our rating system for finance. We have, first comes from TEA. So first ensures that Texas public schools are held accountable for the quality of their financial management practices and to improve the practices. So they encourage districts to better manage financial resources and provide maximum allocation possible for direct instructional purposes. First was developed back in 1999. TEA assigns a first rating to all school districts. Preliminary results were released back in August 7th, 2025, and they become final a month later, 31 days. So it was finalized September 8th, 2025. There are requirements for the first. We must hold a public hearing for the first report within 2 months of the final rating. So we're having that for today, for our public meeting. We must also post a notice in the newspaper 14 to 30 days prior to the public hearing, and we posted it on September 4th, 2025. And the report must also be a comparison between each indicator for the current and prior fiscal years. The first has 21 indicators. There are 21 items that we must follow and must complete. I'm not gonna go through all of them. I'm gonna go through a few of them. So indicator 1 was the annual financial report.
If you go back.
Oh,
sorry.
Was the annual financial report submitted to TA within 30 days? Yes. So we submitted it on November 22nd. It was due by November 27th, so we received the yes. So for all of these indicators 1 through 6, we received yeses for both 23-24 and 24-25. Indicator number 3. Was the school district in compliance with the payment term of all debt agreements for the fiscal year? So basically, did we pay all our bond payments? Yes, we did. So we got a yes for that. And then indicator number 6. Was the average change in fund balance over a 3-year period less than 25% decrease? Yes, it was less than 25%. Why? Because we have always increased our fund balance. So we've never decreased, so we've always increased. So we got a yes on that one too. So we've gotten yeses for 1 through 6 so far. 7 through 12, there are numbers. So the most you can get is 10, and we've gotten 10s for all 23-24 and 24-25. So the first one to go over, number 9. Did the school district's general fund revenues equal or exceed expenditures? Yes, we had more revenues than expenditures for that year, so we received all 10 points. Number 11 was the ratio of long-term liabilities to assets for the school district sufficient to support long-term solvency? Yes. We made sure we made all our payments, and we had very few liabilities so that we won't become have that much debt. So yes, we got all 10 points. And then go to the next one. For this one, it's a combination. We can, number 13 and 14 are up to 10 points. 15 was only 5 points. So that was the most you can get for that one. And then the other two were yeses. And we received all points and yeses for all of these as well. Number 16, did the comparison of PEEM's data to our annual financial report vary by less than 3%? Ours was exactly right. All the numbers matched, so it was a 0%. So yes, we were less than 3% difference. So we got a yes on that one. The number 13 was the administrative cost ratio equal or less than the threshold ratio. The threshold is less than 11.51%. We had 11.5. So yes, we had less administrative cost ratio than instruction. So we got all 10 points. Yes.
First, uses is they want to ensure that we're basically not so top heavy. But when we have grants that are affording us that, that's why we're right at the threshold. But even then, we still met it.
Yes.
And Christy monitors that.
Yes, every year. We always check before we close our books to make sure what the ratio is going to be and make sure we are in compliance. The next one is 18 through 21. Maximum 10 points, maximum 5 points, and yeses. So same for both years. Did the external auditor indicate that our financial report was free of any material non-compliance for grants, contracts, and laws related to local, state, or federal funds? Yes. We were compliant with every grant, contract, and law related to local, state, and federal funds. So we received all 10 points. Number 20, did the school district's administration and school board members discuss any changes and or local, state, or federal funding at board meeting 120 days before the district adopted its budget? Yes, that's the one slide that I always put on during our budget training that shows this is what we needed to pass this indicator because we were discussing all the revenues, all the expenses, all the federal and local. So I made sure we documented it for this purpose, for this piece. And then number 21, did the school district receive an adjustment repayment schedule for more than one fiscal year for an over allocation of foundation school program funds because of financial hardships? No, we did not receive a payment adjustment. We've made all our payments. We don't need any assistance, and we didn't over request anything. So we were good. We didn't need a schedule from TA, so we can send money back. We were good, so we got yeses for that. So we can either get an A, superior, B, above standard, C, meets standard, or F, substandard achievement. So there's a different score. So we earned an A, a superior score with 100, perfect score. So for the past 23 years, it's been a superior rating. So I just wanted to show you throughout the years, for the last 23 years, it has been superior. The one chart that we saw at Region 1 when we went to get the award was this chart that shows all the districts from Region 1 and all the different scores. I know it's very tiny. We don't want to really show a lot of the names, but you can see the orange had superior, the blue had above, or purple, above standard, the pink were C's, and the green was an F. So you can see there the hundreds. There's 10 districts that received the 100. Point Isabel ISD is the one in yellow right there, but all that section in the front had hundreds, and then it starts going a little lower in the scores. So as you can tell, not everyone does get 100 automatically. It does take a lot of work and commitment from everybody from the district, and making sure we follow all the procedures and make sure we let everyone know what's going on and communicate. Communication's always the big thing. But I do want to thank everyone and all the secretaries and all the admin for assisting us with all the procedures. I know it's sometimes not easy, but we do thank you and offer support. Yes. And that concludes our presentation for today.
Thank you, Ms. Gonzalez.
Thank you.
Moving on to public comments on the first financial integrity rating system of Texas. Any public comments? Any public comments? Any public comments? Okay. Do I have a motion to convene the public hearing?
I'll make a motion, Mr. President.
I have a motion made by Mrs. Castillo, a second by Mr. LeBlanc. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. The public hearing is convened at 6:36 p.m. Do you have any comments or questions by board members? Excellent job. Keep up the great work. Thank you. Okay, do I have a motion to adjourn?
I move.
I have a motion made by Mr. Davalos, second by Mr. LeBlanc. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Public hearing is adjourned at 6:37 p.m. Moving on to the second public hearing pursuant to section 44.004 of the Texas Education Code on the issue of adoption of the tax rate for the 2025-2026 fiscal year. Public hearing for the discussion for the 2025-2026 proposed tax rate. We have a presentation of the 2025-2026 proposed tax rate. Ms. Gonzalez.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board, Ms. Capristan, members of our audience. Today we have our public hearing for our proposed tax rate 25-26. Our tax rate must be approved by September 30th, 2025. So we wanted to bring you a little history in regards to the tax rates. So we found information from 1819 all the way to now, so the past 7 years. Back in 1819, our total tax rate was 1.08065. We are recommending a proposed tax rate of 0.7303. So in the past 7 years, the decrease for our tax rate would be 35 cents. So every year, you can see the difference on the very end, that it's decreased every year, even though we've also gone out for bond 2 years in a row right there. And then we've also asked for disaster pennies for the past 2 years, and we're gonna also recommend 5 disaster pennies for this year. But you can just see all the different rates and how they have decreased slightly, and then they started going down quickly, 10 cents, 15 cents. That's because we started getting compression in that tier 1 section of our tax rate. So disaster pennies. So the state has provided us opportunity to increase our tax rate by providing disaster pennies to any areas that were hit by like flooding or hurricanes or different natural disasters. And the disaster pennies available to the district above the voter approval tax rate are one-time basis, so they're only good for 1 year, and then they go away. But there was a disaster in Cameron County on March 29th, 2025, in regards to the flooding. And that disaster is assisting us with letting us recommend to get some disaster pennies. So tier 2 of the tax rate, we can get a total of 17 pennies. We currently have 5 pennies already, so we can request 12 more disaster pennies. So we have 5 regular pennies. We can add 12 for a total of 17. But the district's only recommending 5 disaster pennies for this year. So that'll make the tax rate 7303. The disaster pennies will assist us with, all 5 disaster pennies will assist us with approximately $2.9 million into our budget, which is already included in there. It'll help us balance our budget, help us with insurance. It'll also help us comply with any of the 89th legislature mandates that are approved and that are still being approved. There's still things that we need to purchase and still things that we need to do with the funds that we're gonna get from here. So we're recommending the 5 disaster pennies for this year. Yes.
We are still going down from last year's tax rate to this year's.
Correct. The disaster pennies are already included in the 6798 maintenance and operations tax rate. Right there. And then the interest and sinking to pay our bonds is 0505. So the total recommended is 7303, which is a decrease of 1.7 cents from last year still. So we're still decreasing, but we're still including the 5 cents.
So even though the state requires us to put language on the ballot, for example, when we went out for bonds that state in bold, all caps, this is a tax increase, and what we're going to have to state this evening, which is required by state, that it's a tax increase because we're going to add 5 disaster pennies.
Yes. Exactly.
In reality, in the big picture, all these years since 2018, we've been decreasing our tax rate.
That is correct.
And I think that's very important for the community to understand is that, you know, we may go out for bonds and it has that language that's required to be put on the ballot by the state, and language like today that we're going to say in our motion that requires us to say that it's a tax increase. In reality, we are decreasing our
The
tax rate.
That is correct, ma'am. Yes. Yes. Yes.
I think that is a good post for the community to see so that they can understand
Yes.
on social
We can
media.
put that on there somewhere.
I have a
Juliet?
question. What happens to the other 12 pennies?
Other 12 pennies?
Mhm.
Yes.
Just asking for those 5.
And that concludes our presentation for today. Oh, sorry. We also had to post the notice in the paper, and we posted it also September 4th, 14 to 30 days prior to the public hearing.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you, Ms. Gonzalez.
Thank you.
Do I have, is there any public comment on the presentation and public hearing for the 2025-2026 proposed tax rate? Going once, going twice, none? Okay. Do I have a motion to convene the public hearing?
I'll make the motion.
No? I'm sorry? You move? Motion made by Mrs. Galvan,
Okay. Seconded by Cecilia.
second by Cecilia Castillo. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Public hearings convened at 6:43 p.m. Any comments or questions by board members? Yeah, let's definitely post that because I think that's very informative. Okay. Do I have a motion to adjourn the public hearing? I have a motion made by Ms.
I'll
Hoffman,
second.
second by Mr. Davalos. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. We are adjourning the public hearing at 6:43 p.m. Thank you, Ms. Gonzalez and team. Now moving on to public comments for the regular board meeting. Anybody sign up for public comments? Okay, thank you. Moving on to any announcements, Mrs. Capistran?
Yes. Just an announcement that we will be having our homecoming parade, and we do invite all of the community to participate. We will have our homecoming parade on October the 2nd. They can contact Ms. Juliet Barajas, our public information officer, for information. We definitely want the community to come out and celebrate our wonderful tarpons, and that's from elementary to high school. This year, we are partnering up with Walmart. They're allowing us to line up at the Walmart parking lot to avoid the congestion that happens here. So the parade will start at Walmart and go down Highway 100. So for more information, please contact Ms. Juliet Barajas.
Moving on to the business agenda, approval of consent agenda. Do I have a motion?
I move to approve the consent agenda with the correction to the August 12th minutes under members absent. Trustee Conte and myself were present.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Davalos. I have a motion made by Mr. Davalos with those amendments and a second by Ms. Cantu. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Moving on to the action agenda. Item 1, recommend approval of resolution number 25-26-02 for the adoption of the 2025-2026 tax rate. Recommend to adopt a tax rate of no more than 0.7303 tax rate per $100 valuation with a maintenance and operation tax rate of 0.6798 and a debt service tax rate of 0.0505. Mrs. Capistran, Ms. Gonzalez.
Thank you, Ms. Scott, members of the board. This is in accordance to the presentation that Ms. Christy Gonzalez presented right now. If any of the board members have any questions, we'd be glad to answer them.
Do I have a motion?
I move that the property tax rate be increased by the adoption of a tax rate of 0.7303, which is effectively a 7.18% increase in the tax rate.
I have a motion made by Mr. LeBlanc. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a second by Mr. Davalos. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Moving on to item 2, consideration and possible action to adopt a resolution to declare the board's intent to incorporate disaster pennies as contemplated by the Texas Tax Code into the maintenance and operations tax rate for 2025-2026 fiscal year. Mrs. Capitan?
Thank you, Ms. Scott, members of the board, and to our audience. This is also in conjunction with the tax rate and the information that was presented. The school district is asking the board to approve the use of the disaster pennies, the 5 disaster pennies.
I read the resolution? I don't have to read it? No? Okay. Okay. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
I have a motion made by Mrs. Castillo. I have a second by Ms. Cantu. Any questions or comments by board members? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Moving on to item 3, recommend approval of Peacock General Contractors Incorporated Change Order Number 3 for Point Isabel ISD additions and renovations of the administration building to revise the water line size and extend the sanitary sewer line in the amount not to exceed $13,623. Mrs. Capitan?
Thank you, Ms. Scott, members of the board, and to our audience. As we can see, there's a lot of progress that is happening here at central office with the addition of the new building. But as a result, we have found that there's been flooding, especially during the past couple of weeks when we've had excessive rain. Mr. Villarreal is here, and I don't know if this is going to be GMS that is going to present this item, or Fernando. Anyone?
Okay. So the change that occurred was, I guess we had the portable buildings that were out here, and what we were trying to do was connect part of the sanitary line to some of those connections. When those were removed, it was determined that the fall between where we were trying to connect wasn't great enough. So we found the next outfall, which was a little further on the sanitary line. So we had to make that adjustment after those portables were moved out. On the water line, I think you had a little bit more information on the water line as far as how the size that we have.
Yes. Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Ms. Capitan. Yes, on the water line in there, we did a little more exploration on that, and we noticed that the water meter that is right behind our property, which is right next to the water district, there's a meter in there. Yes, it is the same 2-inch meter, but it requires, for the entire in the facility, it requires a 2-inch. Unfortunately, at certain section, it goes from a 2-inch to 1-inch line. So adding the new building that we add in, the water pressure is not going to be enough, so it requires a 2-inch line. That was the other part that we need to redo. It's part of the price that needs to be redone.
Thank you, gentlemen.
So by redoing all of that, we're going to be good with the water and sanitary of this addition, and all of it's going to work together?
Yes.
Flow together?
Yes, yes.
Okay, okay. All right, do I have a motion? I have a motion made by Ms. Galvan, a second by Ms. Cantu. Any other questions, comments by board members? Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Moving on to item 4, recommend approval of payment number 4 for general contractor fees on the additions and renovations to the administration building to Peacock General Construction Incorporated in the amount not to exceed $265,213.40. Mrs. Capitan?
Thank you, Ms. Scott, members of the board, and to our audience. At this time, I am going to invite Mr. David Mondial with GMS to present an update of central office and of the garage shack.
Okay. I put some slides together. There's a video at the end that kind of covers exactly what I'm telling you, but I wanted to point out a few things slowly so that we could understand exactly what's going on, especially on the renovation portion. We're running into some issues in the existing building. So, okay, so the shaded area is the new addition there in the back. So you can see the steel structures up, the metal decks all installed. They're getting ready to install roof curbs. They're already installing all the structural metal studs on the outside, and then they're going to move into the interior. So that's going to go up very quickly. In the next 2 weeks, they'll have all that up. At the same time, they're starting to frame in or hang all the plumbing lines and do all the rough-ins on the inside. So they're moving pretty quickly on the addition. I did note there on the existing building, we're demoing 3 portions of the wall right now, and there's going to be more slides where I'm going to show you exactly with the issues that we're kind of running into. So that's kind of the update for the admin building itself. The next portion is the security booth over at the high school. It's fully framed out. It's already passed inspection. All the sheathing's up, damp proofing. The electrical and HVAC has been roughed in. The line has been run all the way back to the main campus so that they can pull all the power for the building. And we're just pending for them to install the doors and the windows, and then they'll add the brick. So they're concluding that portion of work here, I would say in the next like 3 weeks. Again, they were a little delayed with the rain. There was some changes that were made to the booth that we're dealing with, but contractors trying to quickly catch up to try to clean that area up. We know it's a constraint on traffic, and we're trying to push the contractor along to try to get that portion of the project completed. Okay, so maybe about a month ago, we had some exploratory openings in all of the walls on the existing building. We didn't have all the complete drawings for the building at the time during construction. There is a new portion that I'll show you here that was a new addition, but on the old portion, we didn't really know what we were going to find. So the pictures that I'm showing you, contractor went in and made some small openings in each one of the walls to try to help us understand what was behind there, to anticipate some of the issues that we were going to run into. So some walls didn't have insulation, some walls didn't have damp proofing. There's just some issues, and they're all different as you go through the building. So we did this ahead of time, but we couldn't fully understand until he started to demo. But we didn't want to demo because we didn't want to open the walls up and expose it to weather. So contractors started to demo. So this is back to that 2007 edition is the newer edition, and that's where he started. So when he pulled that down, he was like, perfect, this is great. I was like, well, you haven't gone to the old part yet. So as he moved to the next north wall, which is wall 2 there, that's where we started to find some of the issues that we're going to find as we continue to go around the existing building. So those are the 3 walls that I'm going to talk about. And you'll see in the next slide, I'm going to talk about wall 1. And you'll see the difference between that wall and then wall 2. So wall 1 is the newest portion of construction. So basically has a backup wall, which is all structural. So the idea that we had was we were taking the new wall and attaching it to the structural wall. Pretty simple. You know, we're going to reclad it with all the nice panels, and we're done. Put the new cap, and we're finished. So we have that solution for that corner of the wall. When we move to the next wall, this is where we have problems. That is not a backup wall. Those are 2 non-structural walls. Basically, there's 4-inch CMU on one side and 4-inch CMU on the other side. It's all tied together, and there at the top, where I shaded in kind of a blue block, contractor poured what essentially is a concrete beam to tie those 2 walls together. Above that, it's an open plenum. So if we knock down that wall on the outside, somebody could literally throw a rock or a hammer and it go through the ACT ceiling in that space. So there is no, so we had to rethink what we were doing. Obviously, we don't have as much room as we thought we did. So we have to make the studs smaller and structural. So we're going to do it in reverse. We're building the structural wall on the outside, and then we're going to clip the new wall on the inside to hold that up. And then we're going to completely close it all the way up to the top. So we're going to add insulation, we're adding all the waterproofing, we're adding sheathing, everything that the backup wall doesn't have, we're gonna put the new wall or the new material to the outside to completely waterproof that. So the pictures on the left sort of kind of illustrate that. You can see the beam there at the top above the pink insulation that was present, but that plastic is literally covering the beam and the open plenum in that space. So we're finding that we've got to deal with this as we move along. So it's been a little slow. We're having to come back. Contractor calls us. I bring the structural engineer. We work on some stuff. We go back. We draw it up. We send it back to him. So he's having to wait to order some of this material until we finish more of the demo, but we can't do too much of it. So we may split it up to try to order some material so he can start, and then we can move on to the next walls, because it's a slow process, but that's what we're dealing with right now. So we're moving forward with the addition. It's moving pretty quickly. The booth is almost done, but this is going to take us a little longer to deal with. So that's an overall update. I can show you the video, and then we can do questions if anybody has any questions.
Here is an overall summary to complement the technical review. Starting at the new security booth at Port Isabel High School, the wooden structure of the building is fully built and has passed all required inspections. The exterior sheathing has been added, and weather protection has been applied to help keep the building dry and secure. The inside rough-in for the electrical and mechanical is almost finished. Next up, the team will install the doors and windows to completely dry in the building, and then we'll begin placing the brick veneer on the outside of the building. Now over at the administration building project, in the new addition, the main steel frame and roof deck have been completed. Crews have begun installing the exterior building framing for the outer walls, and will begin installing roof curbs for the mechanical equipment. Once that's completed, the roofing system will begin to be installed, and crews will also start to install interior electrical and plumbing rough-ins. At the existing building, part of the exterior walls are being carefully removed, so we can see what's behind them, and better understand how the new exterior wall will be attached to the existing structure. We've already provided the contractor with guidance on how to handle 2 of the existing wall conditions. We will continue providing instructions for remaining walls to be renovated. To close, we'd like to thank the Point Isabel ISD Board of Trustees for your continued support.
One question, when will the security booth be finished?
On the current schedule that the current schedule contractor has, he's got it the second week of October. So we've been doing, again, with some rain, we had some changes. So right now on his schedule is the second week of October.
I have a question. The wall, I believe it was wall 2, where you said that there was 2 4-inch
veneer.
And you said you're gonna clip on. Is there gonna have to be anything done to make that and it's not a load-bearing wall or anything like that,
On the
right?
outside?
Yeah.
So we're using structural studs and we're attaching to the beam. So all of that will support the wall on the inside.
No additional foundation or anything
No,
like.
yeah. So we're making all those changes to fit exactly where it needs to be, but there's not enough room for the 6-inch stud that we thought we were going to use. So we have to shallow it up, but the engineer is able to clip the new wall to it. But again, we need to add the protection for the waterproofing and all of that. It's just not there right now. So
okay.
All right, do I have a motion? The motion to approve made by Mr. LeBlanc. I have a second by Mrs. Castillo. Any other questions or comments by board members? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Moving on to item 5, recommend approval of architectural services and payment number 6 to Gomez Mendez Signs Incorporated for the Point Isabel ISD Administration Building addition improvements and high school security booth in the amount not to exceed $3,576.36. Mrs. Capistan.
Thank you, Ms. Scott, members of the board, and to our audience. Administration is recommending payment in this amount due to the work that has been provided up to date.
Okay. Do I have a motion? I have a motion made by Mrs. Galvan. Do I have a second? I have a second by Ms. Cantu. Any questions or comments by board members? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Moving on to superintendent's educational reports and routine reports. Mrs. Capistan?
Thank you, Ms. Scott. Members of the board and to our audience. Attached to your report, we have the public school disbursements, tax office reports, and financial reports.
Moving on to executive session, closed session. The president of the board will call an executive closed session as authorized by the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Section 551.001, which authorizes the holding of such closed or executive sessions. Section 551.071, pursuant to Texas Government Code, Section 551.071, consultation with legal counsel regarding Texas Workforce Commission Civil Rights Division, charge number 1A25595, EEOC charge number 31C-2025-00579. Section 551.074, personnel matters, discussing personnel, deliberations on appointment, employment, evaluation, reassignment, duties, discipline, and dismissal, or to hear complaints against personnel. Item 1, discussion and possible action on superintendent recommendation for renewals, proposed non-renewals, and resignations of professional educator contracts, professional staff administrators, professional staff others. Item 2, discussion and possible action of professional personnel report that includes employment, resignation, leave of absence, new hires, promotions, and transfers for the month of September 2025. Do I have a motion to go into executive session?
No second.
I have a motion made by Ms. Castillo, second by Ms. Cantu. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. We're going into executive closed session at 7:03 p.m.
Tears are like, yeah, dude, I've been saying that.
Okay. Okay. Item one, discussion, do I need to do everything over again? Okay. Okay. We're out of, it's 8:14 PM. We're out of executive session. Do I have a motion to come out of executive session? Yes, I had a motion made by Ms. Cantu, a second by Mrs. Castillo. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. We're back, we're out of executive session at 8:13 PM. Do I have a motion to return to open session? I have a motion made by Ms. Hoffman, a second by Ms. Cantu. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. We are back in open session at 8:13 PM. Action on matters or items considered in closed session. Item one, discussion, consideration, and possible action regarding TWC CRD charge number 1A25595, EEOC charge number 31C2025-00579. Do I have a motion?
I move that the Board of Trustees, I move that the Board of Trustees approve the settlement for TWC CRD, charge 1A25595, EEOC 31-C-2025-00579 as discussed in executive session, and authorize the Board President to finalize and execute the settlement agreement.
I have a motion made by Mrs. Castillo. Do I have a second? A second by Ms. Cantu. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Moving to item two, discussion and possible action on superintendent recommendations for renewals, proposed non-renewals, and resignations of professional educator contracts, professional staff administrators, and professional staff others. Do I have a motion? Okay, I have a motion to approve as discussed in the executive session. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a second by Mr. Davalos. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Moving to item three, discussion and possible action on professional personnel report. That includes employment resignation, new hires, promotions, and transfers for the month of September 2025. Do I have a motion? I have a motion to approve as discussed in executive session by Mrs. Galvan, a second by Ms. Cantu. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I move.
I have a motion made by Ms. Cantu, second by
second.
Mr. Davalos. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. We are adjourned at 8:16 PM. Everyone have a good evening.